I am Scoop, and it was 2017 that I first downloaded Dead Cells off Steam. What a year that was for the game. Every indie game lover was raving about it. It was a huge release and it penetrated the market with this beautiful roguelike platforming system like no other game of that year. You do not have to listen to a 30-second Ray Shadow Legends video, none of that shite. Give me a like. Indie game lover to indie game lover. Let's meet in the middle. That sounds weird.
I'm a joke.
What do you get with the PlayStation 5 version of this game? Well, 60 frames per second, no 4K unfortunately. It did stutter a little bit on base level PlayStation 4, and I had this on the Switch, and it has a bit of a nightmare when things get busy. Those load times are snappy as hell between levels, and I always make my 2-minute mark. How does the game handle when all things are going off all at once? A lot of elements in this game, a lot of traps and fire and electricity and balls of acid that want to dissolve you. It's a very busy side-scrolling platformer and it looks fantastic on the PlayStation 5. Completely rattle through these first levels. It's a joy to have the screen keep up with you. No frame drops, no screen tear. Absolutely nothing wrong with this port. I should really explain the game to people who haven't come across it before. It's a purebred roguelike with its tiling system and level layout, but you can have a structured 3-stage to the boss, so it's pretty cool. You can switch in, I think it's the sewers, the towers, and you've also got the forest. Had to square one it, lost all my application save data. Having the PlayStation 4 version on your system, it doesn't talk to the other save, so you might have to go from the beginning if you can't transfer. As a true native PlayStation 5 version of the game, it sits on the SSD, which is awesome, and that does affect the load times, but above all, it's the performance. It's the 60 frames per second that really hit home, and being able to see how crisp a lot of the animations doesn't really get noticed on a 720 if you're on the Switch. Back to its gameplay loop, you can start with a range and close quarters weapon slot. You can see it down there, square and triangle, but there's drops everywhere, and as with all roguelikes, you find blueprints that then increase the randomization of certain cool things coming into the game. The urge to keep going back into this game is so great because you get to spend points on certain perks and you just realize how much that's going to make your life easier. You start doing the mental maths and think, I'm going to kick some ass now because I've unlocked X, Y, and Z. So you fire it all up. There's also shortcuts to bosses. You don't have to replay or re-roll a lot of missions. It is one of the more perfect action side-scrolling roguelike formulas on the market, and combined with this art style and a snappy control method that is so reactive, the game wants you to dovetail moves into other ones and roll and avoid and dodge and just smash things up, and the emphasis on speed running is kind of integral to the mission structure. You saw me talk about the 2-minute mark there. If you get through things quick, you get huge reward at the end of that level for the next one. On playthrough from beginning, I've realised there's been a lot added. There's also a sort of tutorial lady that takes you through a lot of the basics of the game, and you get to open up a custom game mode, which we'll look at in a second. But there's skins everywhere, there's a tiny bit of free DLC, but there's huge paid DLC available for it currently. It's got some really great mechanics that look after you. This guy drops a beautiful bow and arrow, and I obviously head down to get it thinking that it may have just fallen into a lower level, but it hasn't. It's actually gone over the edge. Immediately respawns into a reachable section of the map. That's clever stuff and really helps if you're trying to go for a big build. And that's a key word here, build. It wants you to choose directions. And every so often you get asked to buff one of 3 areas: your health, your range, or your close quarters, and you can start spreading things around or concentrating on particular areas. You might have picked up an awesome sword and want to start developing that awesomeness in-game. On the subject of in-game awesomeness, there's a very good tribute in one of the books in the hub that talks about just about every decent platformer roguelike indie on the market. They go right through Blasphemous, Shovel Knight's in there, even Slay the Spire gets a mention, Hotline Miami. I was like, whoa, these guys been on my channel. But someone who played this game in 2017, this hub kind of seems unrecognizable. We get to look at a lot of the sections for different outfits, and they're unlockable, and there's a huge incentive there. Blasphemous Dude is in there as a skin. Also had a whole bit of paid DLC Castlevania content come in, which looks amazing, and I promise I'll get to it. I just wanted to fire this up and see the immediate improvements with the native PlayStation 5 version. For me, one of the more interesting areas is the custom game section, where you can choose enemies and arenas and just get your head round their moveset. What you've discovered you can spawn in, so there's also that incentive to get a look at the game more, or if you come across something that you can't work out and you need some training on it, instead of that huge roguelike tension where if you miss a shot it's all over, you can get your training in here with these rooms. I think that's a damn cool idea. I've never seen it on a roguelike before. The game's main protagonist is also a bit of an anomaly, doing the Gordon Freeman doesn't utter a word thing, and everybody seems to know what it's about, and the deal with him is so strange. You're like reincarnated through this tube at the beginning. There is a cool backstory there if you're willing to take the time to look, and it's got that Dark Souls crumb of information here and there. Some materials have some backstory. There's loads more NPCs in the main hub that actually shed a bit more light on that mysterious plot. But it's this thrilling, addictive day-to-day that brings me back every time. The roll button feels so natural, and it has a completely optional parry system, allowing you to pick up shields and have a block or even a kick if you want to go there. If not, you can keep things projectile heavy and roll around and keep mobile. It's got a hell of a lot of ideas, this, with its build system, and it just keeps you addicted because you never know what build could be around the next corner, and sometimes you'll come across something that completely changes things up and you're like, this is the way forward. You would have never played with these weapons before. The hammer and big swords come to mind. Its reroll range on level layout and drops combine together to make it an almost completely random experience every time you play. Yes, you do go into the forests or the sewers, but you'll never know what you're going to get with level layout, and there's some really treacherous and deep secrets littered quite literally everywhere. The first time you step foot into them, and that was something else I didn't see on the original version of the game, is that it's quite generous with a lot of the big name drops, so you get an actual health pack and you get given various things that you really do need on base game. It is quite a lot kinder, I will give it that. On its different patches over the years, the game has sort of relaxed its grip a little bit. When it was first released, with a lot of roguelikes, they really did have that difficulty amped up. With this, there's a lot more different directions you're allowed to go in, and there's a lot more different choice with loadout and reward. What do I think of this free PlayStation 5 version of Dead Cells? I'm absolutely over the moon. It's given me new incentive to go through, oh my god, Risk of Rain, Easter egg there, totally squander that opportunity. But back to the point, for no money, this is amazing. And it's also given me a new reason to fire it up again. I like playing this on a powerful console because those 60 frames are definitely worth something. But again, having it portable on Switch is just like awesome on-the-go roguelike platform addiction. What other games are like this that are out there? I can think of a bunch of them. There's a few on Game Pass. I've made lots of lists. I'll link them all in the description. Skull's one of them, and of course The Messenger, Zero Katana. Please don't forget to drop me a like and a sub. We've got the Street Fighter 6 review on the way. I might hold that up against Mortal Kombat Ultimate. I'll see you down there.